Welcome to the Runetech Archives. Book 1, Bronze and Blood. Chapter 8, Wrenches and Warnings. I nodded and headed towards the back. He followed. As I moved through the smoke and murmurs, I caught movement in the far corner. 3 figures cloaked in a heavy fabric, hoods drawn low. They sat in silence, untouched drinks sweating on the table before them. No one else seemed to notice, or maybe they were pretending not to. The runes inlaid along the bar flickered once as I passed. Just a pulse, faint and deliberate. Good to know the place still remembered me. The workshop door creaked open on hinges that hadn't been oiled in years. Not because JR couldn't, but because he liked the sound. Said it kept people honest. JR's workshop was a shrine to stubborn machinery, a museum of worn metal and half-miracles. Every surface was stained with oil, soot, or ether residue. Tools lined up like old soldiers waiting for orders. Weakly glowing runes crawled along the walls, more mechanical scrawl than spellwork, their light steady but tired, like they'd been burning too long without anyone listening. JR was plain old human, which meant he was stuck with standard-issue runes, bureau-approved, mass-cut, safe. He made the best of it, favoring designs that suited him. Celtic swirls and knots worked into the geometry wherever the templates allowed. He was proud of his Irish heritage, even if the Bureau preferred its employees to follow protocol. Only us residents could etch our own runes. Not because we were better, but because we could infuse intent into the work. Resident runetechs drew from the ether within. Everyone else had to borrow it from the world and hope it answered. A half-disassembled ether coil sat open on the main bench, its copper veins exposed like a patient mid-surgery, wires looping out like arteries. The hum from it was low and steady, the sound of something too stubborn to die. JR's touch was everywhere. Precision without polish, function over form, bolts tightened by instinct, not measurement. Every piece had earned its place by surviving long enough to be useful again. It was just as I left it. Maybe a little dirtier. Maybe that was on me. JR shut the door behind us and locked it with a flick of his wrist. Not paranoia. Protocol. We hugged in that way that men do. More backslapping than sentiment. And I couldn't help but grin. It was an old practice thing. Been a while, old man, I said. Didn't matter how long it had been. We always fell right back into rhythm. Mentor and hard-headed apprentice. You know, JR murmured, reaching for a rag to wipe down a stool. I still remember the first sigil you burned through my workbench. Damn thing nearly took the whole bar with it. I smirked. Yeah, but the beer stayed cold. That's what matters. He snorted, a rare sound, halfway between amusement and disbelief. You etched it with a steel engraver meant for bone work. Overcharged the ether flow. The damn rune pulsed like a panic heartbeat before it exploded. Experimental design, I said, shrugging. You can't innovate without a few casualties. Casualties? He gestured to the scorch marks still visible on the far wall. Took me a week to rebind the containment runes, and the jukebox still skips on track 7. I chuckled, but the memory brought a flicker of warmth. Back then, I was just a kid with a head full of theory and a pocket full of bad ideas. JR had given me space to fail and survive it, more or less. You kept the bench, I said, nodding toward the scarred slab of wood. He ran a hand across its surface, fingers tracing the burn marks like old wounds. It's part of the story now. Besides, it reminds me not to let amateurs play with live circuits. Harsh. True. There was a pause. Not awkward, just heavy. The kind that settles between people who've seen too much together. You've come a long way since then, he said quietly. But this thing with Silas, it's not just another bad idea. It's something else. I knew the man. Knew the world he was a part of. I nodded, the weight of it pressing down again. I know. He grunted. Let's get to it. Tell me what you couldn't say over the line. I laid out the parts I'd left unsaid. The Addendum 13, The transference theory, the signature mirroring. Not that I needed to explain much. JR knew more than most about Runetech. Not because he studied, but because he was there when the craft was resurrected. Before the awakening, he was an airplane mechanic for the Army. After Magick came back and most tech went dark, the world shifted. But the military didn't retire him. They retrained him. Back when the BME was in its infancy, taught him how to etch runes into steel, how to bind ether to copper, how to make machines listen. He couldn't see the runes breathe or feel the ether pulse the way that I could, but that never stopped him from being one of the best. You handed JR a runic diagram and he turned it into something that worked better than the theory ever promised. He didn't need to understand what it meant. He built with instinct. Where others chased enlightenment, JR just tightened bolts until the world made sense again. That's why I trusted him. He didn't theorize. He understood. JR rubbed his chin, eyes narrowing as I spoke. And you're thinking whoever's behind this pulled it off? It's the only thing that makes sense, I sighed. I didn't etch the gun, but it's definitely my sigil. He grunted again, thoughtful this time. Possible. The fact that he didn't shoot the idea down gave me a flicker of hope. Up to that point, all I had was a theoretical miracle. JR's hesitation gave it weight, like maybe the impossible wasn't so far-fetched after all. I'm still stuck on the why, I said. I haven't exactly kept up with the monthly criminal newsletter. Why would somebody want Silas Blackthorne dead? That, JR said, is where I might be able to help. Oh? I've been hearing rumors. Magick Blackthorne, the heir apparent, has been getting ambitious. The light bulb in my head practically exploded. Magick started his own little family. Calls it the Crimson Syndicate, he went on. Word is, he wants to turn it into a Nosferic stronghold. No humans. No exceptions. Then where does his pops fit into all this? From the sound of it, he doesn't. A beat. Magick's looking to take over his father's territory, absorbing the businesses, strip the name down to the bones. He glanced at me. The Blackthorne crime family doesn't survive the transition. The pieces were clicking fast now. It fit. Too well. JR nodded. That's where my money is. So Kid Blackthorne wants to take over, purge the city of the old family, and obviously Daddy's in the way. Might be even deeper than that, JR said, his tone going grim. Silas wasn't exactly fond of the fact that his son wasn't born full-blooded human. Interesting, I said, eyebrows lifting. Ever since the world tilted, it was a gamble what would come out of the womb. 2 human parents isn't a guarantee anymore. Now, every time someone decided to have a kid, we all got to pull the lever and see what lines up. The Bureau called it statistical variance. Parents call it fate. The fog in my head started to thin. Not enough to see the full picture, but enough to make the shapes out of the noose, and maybe the hand pulling it tight. Some of the old world crowd still can't stomach the changes, JR went on, or just won't accept the one Sleeping Beauty brought back when he woke up. They're still clinging to how things used to be. Yeah, I muttered. Safe to say he threw a wrench in more than just the criminal underworld. The old world. The time before the awakening. Not many people talked about it anymore. Too much had changed. Too many people with it. This world. Cracked, flooded, rewired. It was the only one we have. It's the only one I've ever known. Broken wasn't the right word. Changed was closer. And there's one other complication, JR added. Oh? I asked. Silas's widow, Vivian. She's been trying to hold the family together, trying to keep them from tearing themselves apart while she fills his shoes. I sat back, the weight of it sinking in. So not 1, but 2 crime families might want me dead. Fantastic. It never rains but it pours, kid, JR said, almost apologetic. A knot tightened in my chest, slow and cold. The room around us felt smaller, like the walls had leaned in without asking permission. Every answer JR gave me only led to more complications, more shadows. My pulse thudded in my throat again, uncomfortably close to that holding cell. The deeper I dug, the worse it smelled. Rot hiding under clean snow. The fun doesn't stop there, I said, fishing the BME letter out of my coat. I dropped it on the workbench. Jar snatched it up immediately, eyes flicking as he read. He let out a sharp huff when he reached the bottom. "Those pompous assholes," he said. "You haven't even been charged yet, and they're already cutting you off." "Can't have suspected criminals on the books," I said. "What happened to innocent until proven guilty?" I shrugged. I was never their favorite. "It's shit like this that makes me want to try to step away," he said after a moment. "Among other things." "Where do you stand with them these days?" I asked, taking the letter back. "I thought once I was out from under you, you were free and clear." He lowered himself onto the stool, the conversation finally heavy enough to sit with. "No more mentoring, no scouting. They cut the monthly checks." He shrugged. "Every so often they offer me a job. I let them know if I feel like taking it." There was no love lost between JR and the Bureau, same as me. I tried to toe the line as best I could, but curiosity and obedience didn't mix well. My skill had kept me in their good graces, so far. "We'll see how long I stay on their list after this," I said. "Timing grates too. After my surprise guest last night, I'm gonna need new gear." "You know you're welcome to whatever I got," JR said without hesitation. I nodded. "I know. I appreciate it." There was a subtle shift through the bar beyond the wall. Not loud, barely more than a change in pressure, but the kind of thing you feel in your bones before your brain catches up. Conversations dipped. Chairs scraped softly, then stopped. The runes in the bar began to pulse offbeat for a moment, a faint, glitching heartbeat in the floorboards. My instincts prickled. Something was wrong out there. Something had found me. Then I noticed the silence. The bar's usual hum, laughter, clinking glasses, the low blues, had gone still. Even the rain had stopped. Only the pipes in the walls kept dripping, slow and steady, like a heartbeat waiting for something to happen. Something was off, and it knew we were listening. JR saw the look on my face. It hit him a second later. The shift in the air, like pressure dropping before a storm. He got up from the stool and turned toward the door. "Hold tight, kid," he muttered, unlocking it with a practiced flick and swinging it open. I saw them over his shoulder. 3 Nosferics filled the doorway. Each wore a tailored suit, pinstripes sharp, shoes polished to mirrors that caught the neon outside and threw it back colder. Their fedoras were tilted low, casting their faces in partial shadow, but not enough to hide the glint of red in their eyes. That unnatural gleam, like embers behind glass. The one on the left chewed a toothpick with lazy rhythm, crimson tie knotted tight over a chest that barely moved with the breath. The one in the middle stood motionless, gloved hands folded in front of him, his coat hanging like a funeral shroud. The third leaned against the frame, one foot crossed over the other, a brass pocket watch dangling from his vest. Its ticking was the only sound in the room. They didn't speak. They didn't have to. Their presence said everything. The syndicate had arrived. JR didn't flinch. He stepped forward, voice booming like a thunderclap in the silence. "Evening, gentlemen. Drinks are at the bar. I'll be with you in a sec." "Unfortunately, McCaulder," said the one in the middle, his voice silk over razors, "we're not here for a drink. There's word Fidelius Corvin is in tonight." My stomach dropped. I hadn't even hit bottom in this mess yet, and now the syndicate was here to dig deeper. Can I ever catch a break? Thanks for listening to the Runetech Archives. Bronze and Blood, the first book in the series, is available now. This podcast offers a narrated preview of the first half of the story. You can find Bronze and Blood as an ebook on Amazon and Kobo, and in paperback on Amazon as well. If you'd like updates on the series, visit the website to sign up for news, or follow along on social media. Links to everything are in the episode description below. Thanks again for listening, And I'll see you in Fade's next adventure.